This next case is hard to explain, and I'll try to explain it really quickly. In our industry also, we rent additional parking lots, and these parking lots can be random down the block like I mentioned in some of the other stories. So what we did, this was a parking lot that was next door, and it was an abandoned gas station. All the pumps have been removed, all the tanks have been removed out, and it was just a flat surface. And I think they're going to try to sell this property in the future, but in the meantime, we use this property on a daily basis. Now, if you notice at the gas stations where the gas pumps are, there are these little humps that sit about 3 inches tall that the gas pumps used to sit on. So what we do, we try to maximize space in these parking lots. So all the senior valets and even the junior valets should know, just put SUVs over there because you can go over that hump with an SUV and park the car securely. Well, this one day I was out of town and I got a phone call that the valet went over it with a BMW 335i. And by doing so, he took out the oil pan and oil spilled everywhere. This lady was very upset. Obviously, he couldn't drive the car. The car had to get towed, and we ended up towing it to her auto repair shop. So the next day, we got it repaired. And it was actually a quick repair. I think we were done in less than 3 or 4 hours. And I think the total was about $700 or $800, $600, $700 or something like that. But it's embarrassing, and the valet made a huge mistake. I don't know why he did it. He knew that that's an area that only SUVs were parking, but I think he was rushing, took this BMW, took it over the little hump, and took out the oil pan. Now, this one was a horrible, horrible, horrible story, and I hated it really bad. And this is one of the days where I thought we were going to be out of business. This is a huge, massive event, and I think I shared this on the other channel, but the valet, we needed 20 valets, and one of our managers is like, hey, can I bring my girlfriend? Can she work also? It's a simple event. We're not really valet parking. We're driving shuttles, and the shuttles that we were driving were little Mini Coopers, so it was an event for Mini Cooper of North America. So the valets driving the cars and everything was good, but what happened, what we were driving, we were picking people up from the train station and driving them over to Midtown Music Festival, which is an annual event that we have here in Atlanta. So she was driving, and when she pulled out, she wasn't looking both ways, and she pulled out in front of I would guess a 1994 Acura Legend 4-door. And by doing so, she pulls out in front and sideswipes the entire Acura Legend. The gentleman was pretty nice and he was pretty cool, but he didn't want the police to be called, and we were kind of suspicious about that. I get the phone call and I try to talk our managers through the procedures. And we turns out that the guy didn't want the police to be called because he didn't want this to be reported to his insurance company because he loved this car so much. So I told him, I'll be back in town tomorrow. Let me deal with this, and then let's see what ideas we can come up with. So we send the car over to the body shop, and they said, yeah, there's a lot of damage. And if you replace the parts on this car, it actually supersedes the value of the car, which was maybe $3,000. But the guy had such sentimental value with this and closeness and attachment to it, I understood. So I said, let's see what we can do. So I got on Craigslist and all these different places, and I found another Acura Legend 4-door, same configuration, and we were able to purchase the entire car. I purchased the whole car for I negotiated it down to $2,000, pulled all the parts off of it, put it on the new car, painted it, and he was ready to go. And as an added bonus, I told the guy, you know what? You want the leather interior? You like another piece that's better than yours? Let's do it. So he changed out the leather, some of the center console pieces, and a few other areas. So he was actually quite happy after everything was done. And after that, we ended up scrapping the car for parts or whatever afterwards. But these are some of the tricks that we have to do in order to fix this. But going back to the valet, I was furious. There's only so much I could do because technically she wasn't an employee. Technically, I shouldn't have let it happen. But that was a lesson that we learned. And that was probably about 4 or 5 years ago. And it was a great valet, a great manager, but he just wanted his girlfriend to work that day. And we thought it was a simple assignment, but things that seem simple are not always that way. So here's another one. We already spoke about earlier where the valet left the door open on a Lexus SUV and bent it back. You would think that's an isolated incident. No, it's not an isolated incident. We've had it happen on a BMW X1. We had it happen on the next one, which I'm going to discuss, which was a Jeep Commander. This valet, we tell valets all the time, do not hang your head out the door. And what I mean by that is, valets, as they're backing up, they want to make sure they don't back up too much and hit the wall. So what they do, they open up the door, swing their head out, and kind of back up and watch it that way. That's not good because what happened, the door was open and the valet caught it on a F-350 pickup truck. And it caught the bumper. Of course, the F-350s had these metal bumpers, so there was no damage whatsoever. But for the Jeep Comanche, it ended up or what was it, Comanche? But something like that, one of those Jeeps. It bent the door all the way backwards, messed up the door, and actually messed up the fender. So we gave the option to replace it. He was very adamant on not using aftermarket parts, fix it if we can. So the body shop was actually able to fix it. They did an excellent job fixing it, and he was very happy. So that one cost a couple of grand also to get that done. And I think the door skin alone would have been probably $800 or $900. So I think we might have actually saved money by going that route. But these are some of the things you have to do, and the valets have to pay attention. The next case was pretty funny. This one was, I think it was again another dually, but this one was a Chevy 3500 dually. And the valet knows it's a dually. I think this lady rode horses, so she didn't bring the trailer, but she just had the front part of it. And she said, hey, can you park my car carefully because it's a dually? And the valet's like, yes, of course. And the first thing he does, the first corner he goes around, it's too wide in the rear, and he clips the back fender. And with the Chevy 3500 HD, which is the heavy duty version, you would think it's metal and it's going to just dent in. This is plastic, and it cracked. And when it cracked, it echoed everywhere. So we get the car and it's just cracked up into pieces, and this lady was being very difficult with us. So we ended up talking to her. We finally got her to go over to our body shop, and this is a big argument that we constantly have. Please let us take it to our approved body shops. And our body shops are some of the best. I take my personal cars there myself. But the reason I say that, because if you take our cars to a dealership, or it's a Chevrolet dealership, they go crazy because they find out a third party's paying, and everything is all retail prices, all retail labor, everything. So at least if we go to our body shops, they understand that, hey, you need to get this done. We'll get it done cheaply. We give them, or not cheaply, but affordably. And we give them all the business. So whenever we do have an accident, we give it to them. But regardless, he was pretty good, and I think he ended up doing everything for less than $2,000. So that was not a bad case. She was happy. She never said anything more after that. Now, this is the final case, and this one's pretty funny. One of the valets was driving, this was a while ago, the Hummer H2. And during the time, this was the biggest and hottest car out there. And it had big 26-inch rims on, and it was by a NBA All-Star, or NBA basketball player. Well, the valet drove it over the curb and popped the tire. The customer came out, they were arguing back and forth, and it almost got to the point where they were about to start pulling guns out, because my valet is quite country from the woods, and he carries guns in his car, and the NBA player was whatever. It got de-escalated, but regardless, I was able to get this over to the shop. The guy was very upset. I just bought these rims, it's $12,000, not even 2 weeks old. I said, sir, I understand that. Let me take it to the best shop in Atlanta that repair wheels. And that wasn't even damaged that badly. So I take it to the repair shop, and the repair shop's like, we just had this wheel in here 2 weeks ago. I said, what are you talking about? He's like, we just repaired this wheel to give it to the shop who sold it to him as brand new wheels, but they weren't brand new. I'm like, how can you tell for sure? And he's like, well, look inside the real barrel, and there's WW. That's our signature. So we know anytime we damage a wheel or we fix it or something like that. So I told that to the customer, and he was pissed, extremely pissed, like he's going to go after the shop for selling him used rims that had been repaired already. So essentially it took the heat off of our company here, but I feel bad for that next shop and whoever they had to deal with. So these are some of the craziest things we had to deal with in the world of valet parking. And these are the dumb things a valet's do, and it really gets on my nerves. But this is a part of doing business.